Hi, I want to talk to you about smart objects. Smart objects are basically a way to protect objects, protect layers um, from the user. In this case, me being dumb on them. I can't be dumb on my objects if they're smart. So I'm going to make them smart objects, put them in a little protective shell, basically, um, and this will keep me from messing them up. All right, so that's what a smart object is. And of course, I have some files to use to show you how this works. So for example, here's the easiest way to show a smart object. We will take a file, in this case, this dog, Indy Dog, who was one of my dogs. I put the wings on her already, and I've flattened those two layers together, so it's just the wings on the dog is one layer. I'm going to drag that layer into this document, the squirrel. Turn off my smart objects. And I'll call this layer dog. I'll duplicate this layer just by dragging it down to the new layer icon. So I have two Indy dogs, and we'll call one smart dog. So we have dog and smart dog. And just so we can see the two independently, I'm going to say edit, transform, and flip horizontal so that we can have them be nose to nose. All right. Let me scale back a little bit. Now, making the layer smart. Make it a smart object. Well, we can do that in a few different places. Up here under layers, there's smart objects and convert to smart object. We can do it there. Also, here in my drop-down menu, there's convert to smart object, so I'll just do it there. So notice what happened here as the train goes by my window. I have a new icon for my smart dog layer. Alright, so I've got a smart dog layer on the right and my regular dog on the left. And you know what? I'm going to transform both of these so I don't have to do them twice. I'm just going to shift click and put them in a new group. Alright, we'll call them dogs. So they're in a group. That way, if I do Command T, which is my transform, free transform, I can shift drag the corner, and that will keep all my everything constrained. I'm going to make these really small just to show you how the smart object thing works. All right. So I could still, even though they're grouped, I can still work with the layers independently if I want. Just so you know. Now let's say I then decided, oh, you know what? I really wanted these guys to be big. I changed my mind. Small is not cool. I'm going to go back to my group, Command T, and blow these guys back up. Now, if you're just doing a regular layer, this is a big no-no. Obviously, look on the left. My dog layer is looking, you can tell it's going to be completely pixelated. Now after I apply that, not pixelated but blurry. Blurry is all get out. And look at the difference between these two. Even if you have the horrible video at home, or you're watching this on your phone, you might be able to see the difference between the two. Let's move the dumb layer in a little bit. So on the left, we see a regular layer. On the right, the smart object. The smart object is still as completely perfect as when I started. So there's still sharp little furs around her eyeball. You can still see the little glimmer in her eye. Over on this case, over on this side on the left on my regular layer, all fuzzy. So my smart object was protected. It had a protective shell around it. Okay. Now, sometimes a lot of times I don't use smart objects because I sort of like to just decide, okay, I need this to be small, and I make it small, and knowing that it's just a regular dumb object keeps me from going back and changing my mind. And I would probably sit around with the same piece for months and months, moving everything around, trying to make it perfect, and really just changing it back and forth if I didn't have to make some decisions. But these are actually really important in a lot of situations. For example, if you're working as part of a design team and some of the team is doing print design, some of it's doing web design, clearly the print designers are going to need more high resolution files than the web designers, but they all want their stuff to look the same. They want to be using the same files a lot of times. So if they have all smart objects, the print designers can work at their stuff big. They start with big files. They can give it to the web designers. The web designers can shrink it down without messing it up. And then, because there'll be smart objects, and then when they give it back to the print designers aren't going to go, oh my goodness, look at the resolution, it's awful, because the resolution has been protected. All right, so that little sidebar is for you, Patrick, if you're listening, because he was the one that said, I wish you would have talked more about smart objects, because he works as a web designer with a lot of print designers. Okay, let me do another example of this, which is just as powerful. Okay, so let's say I want I want to give this thing a little more depth, and instead of the flying dogs, I want some birds back here. Just so happens I have some birds at the beach, and it's a camera raw file. Now the beauty of smart objects is I can put camera raw files in here and keep them camera raw in a Photoshop document. I know, who would have thought? So watch. To do this, you need to use file place. So file place, and let's see, I needed 2560. I could be using Bridge for this, and that would be a little better, but I know the file I want. It's this flock of birds, Tybee Island. I've already set some of these parameters, and I'm just going to say OK to drop that in. And I am going to make it a bit bigger so it spans. Okay, now obviously that looks bad, but I would do something like, say, oh, darken. And I can still see the birds, but I still see a lot of gray in here too, right? Now, you're probably thinking, well, I can just add an adjustment layer, and you would be right. You can work with smart objects the same way you can work with other layers. You can add adjustment layers, and I could clip an adjustment layer to this. I can add a layer mask if I want to. But here's the cool thing. I can just double click on this again, and it brings it right back up open into my Camera Raw dialog box. So let's say I say, well, you know what? Why don't I just go ahead and increase the brightness a little bit more, and just pull my blacks back in. If I do this enough, it's starting to drop that line out. You see that? Now there's still a tiny little bit right down here. So I could do that again, or like I said, I could do an adjustment layer, and actually probably a slightly smarter way to do this would be just to do an adjustment layer, just take my levels and pump my whites up just a little bit, and this way I can control my midtones to keep my birds black. So there I have all my birds. I don't see any of that gray anymore. I am totally set. Oh, but you know what? I forgot to clip that, because that's sort of important. I don't want to mess my squirrel up, do I? All right, so make sure I hit the third icon, and when I do that, it clips it to my, let's call this my birds. All right, notice, when I hit that little icon down here, that's clipped to affect all layers below. When I check that, it just affects the one layer below, all right, by checking it. Otherwise, it would affect all the layers below. Cool. So again, oops, wrong layer. I'm almost at the end of this. I'm starting to mess up now. It's going on that 2 o'clock bewitching hour. Okay, so isn't that cool that I can get back to my camera raw file through there? So that was, just to remind you, file place, and I placed a camera raw file right into my Photoshop document. I can continue to access that as long as I want to. Let's just blow this up one last time so everyone can see my birdies back there. Oh, and they're too sharp. I could still do filters on these things as well. And again, normally if I was to apply a filter to something, it would totally mess it up. But look, it gives me a different kind of, it gives me a smart filter. I can turn that on and off, my Gaussian blur. There's blurred, there it's not. Pretty cool, huh? All right, that is all I got to say about smart objects.